Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Dalles Chamber Community Fairs. Today, our guest is Grace Wesson. She is with the OSU Extension Office as a rare program staff, correct? Is that correct? Yes.
Yeah.
And she'll be giving us some updates on some special projects that she's been working on and she wants to present to you. But before we begin, we'll introduce ourselves so she knows who's in the room, because I can bet she does not know all of you. So we're going to start with Phil Brady.
Oh, would you come back to me? I want to bring up a picture.
Yep. Brian Tuck.
Yeah, hi, Brian Tuck. Grace, I worked with a lot of your folks in your office. I'm retired extension. So say hi to folks there in the office for me.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Brian.
David Peters.
Good morning, everybody. Dave Peters, Columbia Cascade Housing, Columbia Housing Authority. No big news other than many projects are moving forward and we still need a developer to move them forward. So any developers or people with skills with grant management, anything, at this point that we can train, we'd be happy to do that. Thanks.
Thank you. Scott.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Grace. Scott McKay, Community Liaison for Circles of Care. And I think this afternoon I'm going to go visit Brian at the Mary Hill Park because I imagine by then he's going to be pretty bored and needs something to do. So anyway,
Well,
I think we all should do that.
I'll be taking my
You
nap.
too. Yeah, right. All right, Dan Spots, let's bring it back to reality.
Reality, all right. Dan Spots, Economic Development Officer, City of the Dalles. Good morning, Grace. Good morning, everyone. Working away on identifying projects that we can still make happen through Columbia Gateway Urban Renewal before the district terminates in 2029. And then the question being, can the agency continue perhaps with a new district somewhere? The other big news, the Port Commission last night gave its concurrence to a 5-year abatement for 280 Earth, the carbon sequestration project that's taking place at the port. The county, Commissioner Brady, again, thank you. County commissioners earlier gave their concurrence, and then we go before City Council on May 28th. There is a site tour, 9 a.m. this morning, that I'm going to. And I think if anybody's interested, let me know. And I'm sure that you would be welcome. 9 a.m. I'll be leaving a little bit early from this meeting. Thank you.
Corliss.
Good morning, everyone. Corliss Marsh. I'm with Habitat for Humanity and the library and the Restore. And if you happen to stop by the library this month, we're celebrating Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander Month. And so everything's going on. We're folding origami cranes there. Yesterday, I taught a Mahjong class. And so things are happening at the library. So come on by.
Tanya.
Hi, Grace. Tanya Brumley with Northwest Natural.
All right, Phil, are you ready now?
Yeah, Phil Brady. Hey, Dan, where do we meet for the Earth 280? I will like to be there. Phil, it's off of River Trail Way, so by the older data center, right at the end of River Trail Way. All right, thank you. I'll be there. That'd be great. That's an excellent project. It's sequestering carbon dioxide we need to do everything in order to protect the world for our kids and grandkids. I want to introduce to you Carol Rager. I'm going to share my screen here. Did that come up?
Not yet. Oh, there it is. It's coming.
Okay. So this is Laura, who's just resigned as our the director of the Discovery Center. Her husband finally got a PhD worthy job to work his PhD, and so they're moving out of town. Cheryl Rager has just taken on at the Discovery Center. Yeah, I've got her bio here. If you can see it, she's University of Kansas, degree in American Studies. It's been around a lot in the Midwest and New Orleans, but then she came to the Columbia Gorge with her husband, and they settled in the gorge here to settle in the gorge. And then now the museum job has come up, so she's going to be interim director for now. But I wouldn't be surprised that she becomes our new director because she's got a lot of energy for it. Otherwise, I'm looking forward
I'm going to jump in front of Lisa here and highlight the electric car demo at the Chamber of Commerce this afternoon. There's a couple of great cars, including my future cars. It should the Honda Prologue. It goes 285 miles on a charge, and it looks pretty cool. That's what I'm up to.
Well, thank you for jumping in there.
Yeah.
I believe I got everybody on the screen. So before we go, Grace, I've actually put in the chat the flyer for the Ride and Drive and also a little bit of information. It is here today at the chamber from 2 to 6. You can come by, see all kinds of different options for the electric options of that. Also, there is a part where you can ride and drive it. So we have electric bikes that'll be here. We have some of the side by they call it UTV. And then also some vehicles. And then there will be a few on display that are not going to be drivable, which I have a feeling those belong to Robert Wallace, is the full-size pickup and also a tractor. They're all electric. So all of that's happening today from 2 to 6 at the chamber. You can park behind us, or you can park next door over at High Street or across the street over next to TNT, get a coffee, and then come over here and enjoy the afternoon. So that is what's happening here at the chamber. There is a lot more different things that are happening. I'll put a link up for the community calendar. Please check it out. There is a ton of stuff that's on there. And if you're having an event and you haven't put it on there, there's a simple link that says add an event. Simply just do that, and then it'll be on there. And you do not need to be chamber members to do that. So with that, Grace, why don't you go ahead and take over from here and update us and tell us all kinds of stuff.
Okie dokie, thank you. Hold on. Pulling things up. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Make sure that y'all can see it. Okay, is everyone seeing this?
Yes, we are.
Okay, well, this is a picture of Maupin in the south of the county, and I quite enjoy it because I've been doing a lot of work across Hood River and Wasco counties throughout the counties. So to give more of a background on me, I'm an AmeriCorps member serving between the Hood River County Extension Office and the Wasco County Extension Office. About half of my work is in food systems, so we just established a community garden over in Hood River County, and hoping to secure funding for a new one next year in Wasco County, and doing some work on local food security too. But the other half of my work is in air quality and smoke readiness, because this is more and more of a concern here in the area, throughout the state, and throughout the country. So with that being said, I hope to kind of update you about some of our projects. So to take you back to the start of some of OSU Extension's smoke-related work here in the Gorge, a lot of it started in the wake of the 2020 Labor Day fires, and we had some air quality monitoring in the Gorge, but pretty limited, and they were measuring very, very unhealthy air quality during that time. And just to give you more context, this purple and this maroon are those very, very dangerous air quality days. And beyond that, air quality is a year-round concern. So in summer, it's quite tangible, the wildfire smoke, but there's also outdoor burning. We're all pretty familiar after this past winter, the effect of inversions. Our gorge geography can force a lot of pollution and smoke from home heating and so on, close to the breathing zone in the ground. And to show you exactly what those particles are, it's the really, really, really small ones. If we were to look at the human hair, many, many of them can fit across that diameter, and they can make their way into the lungs and cause acute respiratory symptoms. And so, as you can see, those purple and maroon days when we have wildfires are emergency conditions, particularly affecting a lot of our more vulnerable populations here in the Gorge. So hopefully that kind of shows the importance of this work and the importance of planning for it as we move forward. So in the wake of those emergency conditions that had happened in summer 2020, OSU Extension received a DEQ grant to do a massive gorge-wide survey about folks' thoughts on wildfire smoke and our concern about them. And this was in a 5-county region throughout the gorge with 761 responses. And as you can see, a lot of people are very concerned, with some being somewhat concerned. And a lot of folks indicated that they would like to receive advance notice and ways to create cleaner air spaces at home. So hopefully the rest of this presentation will kind of address that. And a lot of folks said that they might like to receive information online or via website. So in the wake of that survey, because our job as the Extension Office is to respond to community needs, we launched a website, smokereadygorge.org, and it features a huge network of air quality monitors throughout the region that continuously sync to a map that shows up on the website. There's a banner at the top which shows when there are emergency alerts. So we hope to use that for nearby prescribed fires as well as wildfires in the area. We're currently finalizing a community response plan for wildfire smoke. And then our next phase, we just received a grant to expand an air quality monitoring network in all of our local K-12 schools. And this is to show you what the website looks like. It's bilingual too. And this was the air quality as of, I think 2 weeks ago was when I made the presentation. But as you can see, it's pretty good. A lower number on the air quality means pretty safe to breathe. But as we get more into wildfire season, it's likely that we might see some oranges and reds. So that's something to look out for. And that's why I believe that this website is pretty convenient. You can pull it up and you have them all right there. So you might be asking, how is this relevant to me and the work that I do? As we move forward with this work, we hope to create some community partnerships to promote well-being and preparedness. As part of our work with the K-12 schools, we created bilingual brochures kind of giving the rundown of this information. We are hoping to just get this information out there and see how we can work with other people in the community to cross-link our resources. How can we show your resources on our page and make sure that our visitors and our year-round residents have all of the information that we need. And one idea that's in very much draft form that I would like to pose for you all would be the idea of citizen or business ambassador programs for smoke readiness. And this is kind of what our brochure looks like. We just ordered 8,000 copies, which was a little bit daunting, but really exciting to have this information out there to show to people who might need it. And I do have details on what it would take for a business or a home to be more smoke ready. But at this point, since I've thrown a lot of information at you, I would love to pause and see if anyone has any questions or thoughts.
This is Brian. The question is, the health department involved in this to kind of, obviously this is a serious health issue, maybe to make sure people have masks or other things like that as we go into this. And also is the thinking now with climate change, obviously, which is happening, that this is only going to get worse, and as we shift our climate in this area?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the website was actually created in partnership with the Hood River County Health Department, and we are working with for our community response plan, which is kind of one of the biggest parts of it is creating those communication channels so that everyone throughout our region is in touch with each other. And kind of knows at what threshold do we implement what procedures. So the folks who are going to be around the table there is going to be emergency management for Hood River County and Wasco County, as well as our health department here, Hood River County Health Department. We're also involving the Columbia River Intertribal Fish Commission, yeah, just a bunch of representatives from different organizations, but our core partners are emergency management and public health. And as for your question about masks, OSU Extension did receive, I believe it was part of the DEQ grant that we received N95 masks that we distribute at tabling events when we show this information, because obviously the guidance to wear an N95 mask if you do choose to be outside is only as helpful as you can procure one of those masks, right? And you know, obviously not everyone has the resources to do all of these things. But yeah, so we've been distributing those at tabling events, hoping to kind of reinforce the message and give folks the tools to choose what they would like to do for their health.
It looks like there's also a comment in the chat from Dan Spots. Says a potential alignment between the presentation and Early Learning Center initiative. Chenoweth Middle School as a climate resiliency center, disaster shelter, and community garden. Still early planning on both, but not too soon to discuss. So that sounds like a discussion that Grace and Dan Spots could have later. And just kind of compare notes and see what that conversations can be so that there's one effort and not multiple in different locations. Let's just
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you, Dan. And we are developing middle school curriculums. That aligns perfectly. So I'll drop my email and we can totally be in touch.
Talk, this is, we'll catch up. There is a EPA grant called Community Change National Competition that deals with social climate justice, social injustice. And in this case, we are hope to start an early learning center. So not middle school, it's an old middle school. It's going to be converted into an early learning center with a secondary role of climate resiliency, disaster relief shelter, that type of thing. And possibility of a community garden nearby. So when you mention that, there might be a space. We have to have some discussions with the school district on that one, which will always own the property, but they've been very supportive. So we'll catch up. Nothing urgent, but love to catch up here.
Yeah, sounds great, Dan. Thank you.
On this topic, conversations with the our senior population, for instance, others at risk, particular risk, and the hospital. Are you in touch with Adventist Columbia Gorge?
Yeah, I'll need to see if they've responded to my doodle poll yet about the community response plan meeting. But yeah, that is something that we would love to work a lot more on. So we've been involved in some of the like state and national conversations on air quality communications work, and there's been a lot of great groups in Nevada doing creating sort of graphics and whatnot for medical settings for staff, and also for senior centers and whatnot. And so that's something that we would definitely love to work with folks on, potentially getting some of the informational materials out there. There's also a program that we do in June, established by the AmeriCorps member before me, and it's called Join the Fan Club, where we set up kind of interactive displays of those DIY fan filters, which are a whole lot more affordable than commercial air purifiers, and really do get the job done to filter out particulate matter. But we are hoping to feature those with our local social services community partners, and that includes senior centers. And we're also hoping to expand to, you know, maybe businesses or other places that people frequent. So would love to be in touch more about that and chat more about that. That's absolutely a very important population for this.
Great, thank you.
Grace, this is Brian again. I guess, is there any kind of work that's going on that sort of looks at trying to mitigate wildfires to reduce? I mean, obviously this, you know, like Forest Service and BLM and others, are you familiar with that? Or, you know, as far as knowing that we're going to be, this is how we're going to live here. And obviously with the change in climate, with less snow in the mountains eventually and more rain, is there any of this kind of going on to really look at this for the long term to sort of reduce this sort of new phenomena that we're dealing with now as we go into climate change, and obviously in a very big way now?
So our specialty at OSU Extension Family and Community Health is more household and community preparedness, but like as part of the conversations that we've been in, we've talked a lot with people about prescribed fire and the potential for that. So the way that prescribed fire burns, it's due to the temperature and the speed of the fire. The smoke from it, some research is showing that it's like a little bit less toxic than wildfire smoke, which burns at a lower temperature and for longer. And also, obviously, that has the benefit of being much more controlled. But there's also ways that we, in my sphere, which is household and community preparedness, we're hoping to promote there's some mobile chipping programs going on so that folks can have an alternative to burning yard waste. Because obviously we have a lot of folks with a lot of land, and the management of that is a concern. The Hood River County is releasing basically like a Firewise booklet sharing how folks can prepare their homes and their land to be more fire safe and reduce the spread of fire. And we're also hoping to promote some programs that Oregon has for household upgrades for home heating, which can reduce some of that smoke in the winter. So there's a few different channels that we're going through as far as the large kind of forest management. I don't feel like I quite have the expertise to speak with that, but there are some ways that homeowners and folks in the community can make some small upgrades and changes to be a little bit more fire-wise.
Grace, what about the fire departments, Mid-Columbia Fire and Rescue? There is a association, I believe, of the different departments that meets periodically. Do you have outreach to those groups on both sides of the river, for that matter?
Yeah, we work with them for the Get Ready the Dalles event last year, and now Get Ready this fall because it's beyond the Dalles. But yeah, I am also, so this is actually something that I could use some of y'all's help with if you happen to know the best contacts for some of them. I was trying to do some digging and invite them to our community response plan meeting coming later in this May. But yeah, it's absolutely something I would love to have as many folks at the table for that as possible, because it's it's a community response, and the more different spheres we can have, the better.
I'm doing an email to introduce you to the early learning group, and I'll include Chief Bob Palmer with Mid-Columbia Fire and Rescue on the CC list there, so you'll have his contact information.
Yeah, thank you so much. I absolutely appreciate that. That would be awesome.
Working to have a shelters is a good way to enhance an existing building for other purposes. At the county, Sheridan McClellan, our emergency management person, who you probably know, got a grant to install some filters at buildings at Hunt Park, the fairgrounds. And so dual purpose, it becomes a shelter and a smoke event, and it also improves the air quality in the building. Otherwise, basically, we're talking about an air conditioner. And so if you have a facility that wants to be upgraded, this is a good reason to do it to dual purpose. I have a really, okay, I'll call it a crank question. If you go back to the color codes for air quality index, which is a nice thing because it's combining a lot of different measurements into one, gives a handy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, to work, the direction of this question is to give people an idea of how bad is it. So like I was back in the day, a year or so ago, when we were red or purple, I said, oh, okay, I can just put on a mask and go out and do some gardening. And I later realized, why do I have a headache here? It probably was worse than I thought it was. So my question would be, what level here, what color would be comparable to smoking cigarettes? And that's kind of
a really good question.
It becomes a real good yardstick for people to say, would you smoke cigarettes? Okay, would you be outside in this level of pollution, air quality?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Your
I'll have
map,
to look into that.
your map is really fun to look at. I noticed at least one of the monitors is in a vineyard, and that makes a lot of sense in that that smoke can affect grapes, I understand. Are there other crops that are affected by smoke?
Oh,
Yeah, I think this is kind of, given that this is sort of, I don't want to say an emerging issue because fires have been around for a long time, but kind of emerging a lot more in like the scientific and public eye. I do know that OSU has been doing a lot of research, like their soil and crop scientists, on the effect of wildfire smoke. I work sometimes with Dr. Linda Brewer at OSU, and she does research. I think it's just on grapes, but I want to say that there's other crops that they're looking into as well. Yeah, it's fascinating because I know there's a lot of folks who are already, operating on very, very thin margins, and of course, a natural disasters.
On your
It has
map
a massive
there,
impact.
on your map, the indicator that has the number 6 on it up at Avery Island, upstream from the Dalles, that one's in a vineyard. So keep going upstream to the east before you get to Wishram.
Oh, sorry. This is just a screenshot of the map.
Oh,
I can
okay,
pull up the
yeah.
real thing.
No, don't worry. But that one, that's Avery Vineyards there at
Yeah,
Avery Island.
yeah. I think it can be useful for both the business owner and, and the outdoor workers to know what's going on outside. But yeah, I really appreciated your question about the smoking, because I think that could be a really great way to help everyone to contextualize it.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, yes, many crops are affected by smoke. Anything that can absorb and retain, that will keep it. So,
I imagine cherries.
yeah. So all of those can be affected by smoke. Either if it's thick enough, then you've got effective a different way. Some of your vineyards have taken advantage when they have nothing else. I mean, not taken advantage, but they've made lemonade from lemons. Some of those, if you have the grapes for red wines, that smokiness can actually enhance and give you a once in a lifetime different flavor of your wine. There was a few that Tierra de Lobos did because their vineyard's right across the river. And the 2017, I believe it was either the Malbec, one of their other deep reds, had an amazing, just rich, smoky flavor. But it's a risk. They have no idea how that's going to turn out until after it becomes wine, if it's going to be any good. So yes, your whites are not going to come out at all very well. You're probably lost your crop if there's any smokiness in the white. That just doesn't come over very well in a white wine, but your deep reds can sometimes do that and come across with a very unique, marketable flavor. But it is a risk for the vineyard to pick them and do it, not knowing what's going to happen with that flavor on that. So Scott, you have a question.
Yes, Grace. During COVID, the Mid-Columbia Senior Center installed a more robust filter system in order to protect the folks who visit the center. Would that system be better in protecting folks during a smoke event also,
Yeah, I can't speak to the specific filter that you have. I feel like I don't have the expertise, but I can tell you that the current guidance is to have MERV 13 or higher rated. But essentially the guidance is windows and doors closed, and then HVAC system with that updated MERV 13 or higher filter running. Or if that's not an option in one's home or whatever space you're in, a DIY fan filter. Research has shown that works pretty well, about as well as those plug-in air purifiers. but an HVAC system with that updated filter is really great.
I know that, I believe it was Lauren who came to the senior center last year and did a presentation on those DIY air filters. And I remember stopping by the center and still seeing that in the lobby to remind people that that was an option, a less expensive option.
Yeah, it's a pretty great option. And actually some of the folks who hosted the fan club display, when we went to pick them up, they were like, "Oh, I hope it's okay. We actually plugged it in and used it during smoke events." I was like, "That's more than okay. That's like the best we could hope for." But yeah, so hopefully it comes in handy. It's a lot more it's a lot easier to get than like a $200 air purifier.
Also, if you have helicopter adult children, they made sure that we got an air purifier in our house because that was something that they required that we needed to do.
Tanya, you got your hand up?
Yeah, so Grace, I wanted to just share with you, Lauren with OSU Extension gets emails. Northwest Natural teams up with the county emergency manager department and also the fire department. In September, we do a Get Ready event. It's a emergency preparedness event for the Gorge. Well, it's for the county basically, but we have it in the Dalles. And Lauren's been our contact, but I'm hoping she shares with you that we have this event. It's on September 21st, because I feel like this would be really a good educational piece to that event that we put on every year.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And she's my supervisor, so she already told me, and I have it on my calendar. I'm really
Yay!
excited. I have a
Okay.
picture of me with Smokey from last year.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So me and Smokey will celebrate our 1-year friend-iversary at the next Get Ready event. So I'm really excited for that and to share all of the new stuff that's been coming out. But
Great.
yeah, thank you.
I'm happy to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is, I want to talk about controlled burns and planned burns. I want to share screen here. This is too much fun. My daughter, Sarah, works for the Nature Conservancy in Washington State, and she got invited to go out on a controlled burn in one of the coulees in Eastern Washington. She can tell from her clothes. This is the before picture. And come back, bring it back to home. Do we get advised when there's going to be a controlled burn that could drift our way? And as my daughter told me, it's really tough to wedge a controlled burn into, all the conditions all the clouds have to align, not stars, but the clouds, wind and temperature and everything.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm kind of like looking at my screen because there's a map of like current and I think planned prescribed burns. And I'm trying to find the right person to reach out to see if we can actually embed it on the website, because that was one of the #1 pieces of feedback that we got on that big smoke survey that we did. If nothing else, I hope to use the alert banner at the top of the website. But
does that map cover both sides of the river? And I asked that question because you've got different state agencies, different fire departments, everything else. But it's such a regional issue. You start a fire on the Klickitat County side and it hits Wasco County and vice versa. Hood River.
gotcha. Yeah, and it is there's an awful lot of wind. So that air quality monitoring map that we've got, that does show both sides of the river. Our funding to get more monitors in schools only covers the Oregon side. Although I've had some chats with folks on the Washington side, and we would absolutely love funding permitting to expand there. Because smoke doesn't see the state line and go, oh, I'm gonna turn around, So here's one of the so I wanted to answer your question, and then to answer Phil, your question about
NC Web.
prescribed fires. Yeah, so this shows some of the prescribed burns going on. And I believe there's another map too that's linked on smokereadygorge.org. We're not a comprehensive list of resources, which is why I'm trying to talk to as many people as possible to make sure, is there anything else we should feature? So, yeah, that's a good bit of feedback. And let me find the other prescribed burn map lists for that, and I can drop them in the chat.
INSEE is pretty well known. We often go to that one, but the more information we can embed there, the better, especially on prescribed. You're driving down the gorge and you see a big fire coming up. You don't know if it's accidental or not. And, you're talking about an issue that we take very, very seriously around here. It's
Are the prescribed burns just for state agencies? I guess the reason I'm asking, it seems like, I don't live directly in the gorge. I live further south, but, farmers and ranchers and orchardists burn in the wintertime. That's quite common. Orchardists will burn their tree, what they've trimmed off and stuff. So I'm just curious, is that included or?
Forest Service.
Just
Certainly
the Forest Service
Oh, yeah.
is listed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's some of the like guidance and advice is hopefully folks can kind of, let their neighbors know if they're about to burn. And we also have some guidance on the Smoke Ready Gorge website about how you can check if there's a burn ban in your area, or how to check if it's a good or bad day to burn when you're most or least likely to smoke out your neighbors. But yeah, in any case, I believe it's just, the Forest Service featured on those maps.
Looking at the price for the monitor, it's only $230. And then so anybody can buy one, and then it logs into the network. Do they have to reach out to the network to do that, or does that come automatically with the device?
Yeah, so if you're talking about the Purple Air monitors, and that's kind of one of the most popular like citizen science kind of air monitors that's being used in a lot of these spaces right now. But yeah, it's really a quick process to get it mounted, installed, and logged on. And then, if you have a solid Wi-Fi connection, it would kind of start syncing up. There's not really a verification kind of process. And they don't like store and process the data for you, I believe, unless you spend extra for, I think there's an SD card that you can get for extra. So that does kind of reduce the delay because it's up immediately.
But really, if there's several in my neighborhood, I'm not decline. If I have several in my neighborhood, I don't need my own because the smokes could be everywhere. But it's better to have these distributed across the landscape. And
yeah.
Phil, I'll take a look at that one up here.
Yeah.
Broaden the scope a little bit.
Well, know when you're doing your barbecues.
Oh yeah. No, seriously, when we have wildfires up here, I'd go out with a mask, and at the end of the day, the thing is dark from the smoke. You have to throw it away. You can't even reuse it.
Wow.
Can't see the trees.
Any other questions for Grace while she's here?
Well, I remember hearing in the old that a lot of the air pollution in the gorge, apart from smoke, is from the east, the coal fire plant and the feedlots up in the Hermiston area. Not to throw shade on them. The kind of air quality we're talking about now is it different than that kind of the haziness that we'd get from those sources?
So I think I'd shared the main component that we're measuring in wildfire smoke is PM 2.5, which is it's basically just a way of saying really, really small particulate matter. Here, I'm trying to share my screen to show you. But that's also present in some pollution sources too. Just to share, I can't speak to, you know, the pollution produced by those sources specifically. But I do know that PM 2.5 can also be produced by, like, you know, traffic pollution and
Yeah,
other
trains.
sources like that. Yeah. And it can be a lot of different kinds of particles, as you can see, like, you know, they have organic compounds and metals in the same category here, chemically very different, but just really, really small particles in the air. And that can come from a myriad of sources, really.
Yeah, for diesel motors is, I think, a source.
Yeah. And we are along, you know, a big freeway and trucking route. So.
Yeah, this is Brian. I think that's a good point. In fact, I'm just sitting here listening to the trains go by here in Maryhill Park. So it's kind of background noise, but I think that's important, you know, that obviously to make people aware, you know, like of obviously pollution from trains in this case, or even like dust, you know, which obviously is a larger particulate matter, but yet again, that can be really a problem for people with, you know, lung diseases and things like that, that all that is a part of this, along with burning, that, you know, we're kind of in a really interesting area where we have a lot of air moving back and forth east and west from different sources of pollution. So, you know, again, that's neat what you're doing. I think it's just, this is a bigger issue as we kind of look at the broader scope of problems between burning and, you know, I'm just thinking of agricultural burning as well, you know, where you need to burn off fields sometimes, but yet again, that's a lot of smoke that, you know, from wheat fields that can generate. Even the fires. I mean, I used to fight a lot of wheat fires in my day when I was younger, stronger here, but, you know, again, you know, between dust and smoke and, you know, and then obviously the pollution from the old coal fire plant, which is going to be done. But, you know, a lot of different things that really play into this, that especially with people with lung disease, really becomes an issue.
Yeah, I think our main goal is, given like the bigness of the issue and how many factors are at play, just making sure that folks have, like, you know, knowledge and some of the tools so that they can assess, you know, what's the best decision for me and my health. So in any case, we do what we can, and we are hoping to expand some of the information available.
I want to applaud the preparedness nature of this. It's hard to get people excited before something happens, but that's the best time to prevent damage from happening, is to be well prepared. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil, and thanks for all of your thoughtful you know, questions and feedback. Really helpful.
Can I share one more?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about trains and diesel and trucks. The big shipping, you know, ocean thing, cargo ships is the word I want. They burn a fuel that's very minimally refined. They're very smoky machines. If one looks at satellite photos of the oceans, one can see bands going across the ocean, which are the shipping lanes. The ships are out there so much, and we don't realize that all of the cargo we see going up and down the George has come off a ship, and it's worldwide transportation is amazing. So they were made a target to try and clean up these ocean cargo ships, and there was some success. So much success that people were looking at the ocean temperatures down at ground level and realizing, whoa, there's been a big increase in the ocean temperature. And then they realized it's because we have decreased the pollution above the ocean that was shading the ocean. So it's not the case that you can't win. We got to do all of this to make it happen, and reducing the pollution was the right way to go, but it had some just the level of the amount of pollution caused by the ships was surprising to us.
We live in an interesting, big, interconnected system.
Yep.
That's for sure.
Well, Grace, do you have any questions for us?
That's kind of about it. I was just hoping to share a little bit about our work and kind of see what folks' thoughts are and ways that we can work together. I did drop my email in the chat, and Also, one totally unrelated thing, one of my side projects that I'm doing is I'm helping coordinate a column for the Columbia Gorge News on behalf of the Aging in the Gorge Alliance, the Through the Eyes of an Elder column, which comes out monthly. So if any of y'all know anyone who would like to share their perspective as an elder in the community, please feel free to shoot me an email too. But yeah, I love having this variety of projects because there's so many different ways to work with a lot of different people. So
I think an article about grandparents raising grandchildren would be really good, right?
Brian.
Yes, I think that'd be, I could probably write that from firsthand experience here. I'm not sure who's raising who.
Well, we already know. We already know that answer. So yes. So, well, if we don't have any more questions, I want to be respectful to everybody's crazy schedules. And I say that we just duck off and we have a few 12 minutes for everybody to go and do 2 extra things or an extra cup of coffee or stand outside in the sun for at least 5 minutes before you go and start your other work day. It is gorgeous out there, so go and enjoy. And hopefully we'll see some of you at the Ride and Drive this afternoon. So be sure to check the community calendar. Also, there is a lot of things happening in our community. Everyone, you take care and have an awesome Thursday.
bye everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Grace.